Welcome back to the Fly Culture Podcast, your weekly look inside the world of fly fishing presented by Pete Tigers. If you're enjoying listening, please consider subscribing.
If you're a regular reader of Fly Culture magazine, you'll know the writing of Ben Jayler. In our very first issue, we had a piece he wrote about fly fishing the zombie apocalypse and where he escapes the breakdown of life generally to a lake that he calls Mystery Gentleman's Fishing Syndicate Lake X. And I'm really pleased and excited to be there today. I'm not going to say where it is, but I'm really excited to be here, to be hanging out with Ben and doing some fishing with him today. Well, Ben, we've had a very, very fine breakfast, plenty of coffee. We've got to the lake, which is absolutely amazing. It looks like it might be a bit like the zombie apocalypse, that there's nobody here, which is fantastic, except some guys cutting the grass, but I couldn't tell you if they're zombies or not. Thank you for having me along today. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. And, you know, in some ways the zombie apocalypse article is quite pertinent, but, you know, given the other challenges we're facing in the world at the moment, I think I'd settle for one quite easily.
And if people hadn't read your piece, you talk about, like I say, the breakdown of society and where you escape to somewhere. And this seems to be the perfect place, and I can see why you chose it. We're not going to name the location of the lake, but can you tell us a little bit about it so listeners get a sense of size and depth and what we might expect to encounter today?
Yeah, it's a small kind of man-made reservoir nestled in a valley. In terms of security, we've got lovely wrought iron fences all the way around, which will keep out zombies. Unfortunately, didn't do such a good job keeping out poachers, which seem to hit us once a year around stocking time, and also during the pandemic. You know, we tended to sort of, as people sort of tended to get out into the country more for walking and things like that, it tended to get a lot more attention. In terms of the syndicate, it's a very small syndicate, probably only about 12 people. When I first moved to where I live, you know, the first thing you do is look at available water to see if there's any sort of fishing nearby. And I saw this reservoir marked on Google Maps, but couldn't find any mention of it, you know, anyone sort of fishing it, any clubs. And I think we were just going for a walk around the valley. And I was actually on the zombie side of the barbed wire fence looking in, you know, very jealously, and I saw someone fly fishing, and, you know, as you do, I just like, you know, the classic, "Oi, mate!" And yeah, luckily he actually chose to engage with me and, you know, rather than tell me to piss off. And, you know, as you do, it's a bit like sort of dogs sniffing each other's asses, isn't it? When two fishermen meet, it's like that sort of code of honour that, you know, if you fly fish, you've got to be a reasonably kind of decent chap. And yeah, we got talking about fly fishing. I asked about fishing there, explained, you know, it's a private syndicate. But the great thing was he gave me his mobile number and said, look, if you want to come down as a guest and try it out, you know, do that. So that was fantastic. So I took him up on that. I'll probably fish here maybe 2 or 3 times a year, you know, different times of the year, different conditions with him. And blimey, you know, as I said, it's dead man's shoes. So I think I was here for a guest for about 10 years until someone either, you know, got too old to fish or popped their clogs. And then I got the chance to join it. And yeah, never look back. To have this on your doorstep, it's absolutely fantastic.
It looks beautiful. I know you've talked about the clarity of the water. It's a miserable day today. It's like we're sitting in a valley and the clouds and the mist and a bit of drizzle are hanging over us. I guess there's a chance it may lift. There is a break in the cloud a little bit now, so there may be a chance of that. But you talked about the clarity of the water, and for me, really, really exciting is the potential possibly to stalk a fish. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways to fish it. I mean, unfortunately, I've never had the opportunity to fish for bonefish or tarpon, but, you know, reading, I think, is it Monty Burke's Lord of the Flies? And Billy Pate and all those guys, because after reading the book, you know, I checked out some of the videos on YouTube, and in a weird way, I imagine my sort of perception of that kind of fishing is similar to what you can do there. I mean, the water clarity is unbelievable, particularly on a flat calm. You can probably see as far as you can cast. So the fish tend to, you know, patrol very close into the bank, maybe 2 or 3 feet out. So there's the option to stalk. So sometimes I might go right down to a 5-weight, a single sort of beadhead pheasant-tailed nymph. You see the fish coming towards you, you flick it out. The scary thing is just how many times your fly gets refused. So I'm always a firm believer in, fishing with a kind of confidence fly. So, you know that if you're not getting any takes, then it's because there's not any fish in the area, or, you can change something else to, take the doubt out of the equation. Another tactic I use is snake flies work really well down here with a die 5. Again, this used to work really well with the brownies because much more aggressive. I'll talk probably a bit later about what kind of invertebrate life there is in here, but we basically think they're feasting on crayfish. There's no kind of coarse fish in here, and grizzle snake fly die 5. You see a big brownie, 2 feet of water, maybe 3 or 4 feet out. You see it come in, chuck it out in front of it, and just twitch along the bottom. They absolutely hammer it. So that's really exciting. Also, the water tends to drop off to deep areas, maybe about sort of 10 feet out. So you can fish blind as well. Get it down. The fish tend to patrol that area. So, you can fish it how you want. I don't fish the dry fly much, but when I have done that, you see fish come 20, 30 feet down, zooming up and taking the dry fly. So I know you're a bit of a dry fly supremo. So, if you want to have a bash at doing that, I'd kind of recommend that as well.
Fantastic tips. And actually, while you were speaking, I was having a look out. The cloud seems to have lifted a tiny bit, and a few midges about as well. So you never know. It would be really good fun to throw a dry at a rising fish. I'm not fussed. Like you say, and your thought about bone fishing and the stalking of fish, I think that's why this appeals to me so deeply and so greatly as well. But it's not the first time we fished together either, because last time you came down my neck of the woods, didn't you? And we fished the river together, which was great fun. And it's nice to have made the journey up to your neck of the woods. So I'm really excited to see your home water today. I'm seeing a few more midges around now as well, so I'm excited about that. But like I've been saying in here, that Ben has been from issue 1 of Fly Culture, has been writing for us, and our relationship goes back further than that. And I'm very proud to have been the first person to publish some writing that he'd done on, or his first writing on fly fishing, and have published that on the online mag I used to run called Eat Sleep Fish. And then it seemed a natural progression. And I love Ben's writing because it is so different, refreshing, and he comes from a completely different angle, and it's really nice to toss that into the mix of other great writing as well. But that's one of the wonderful things that I've discovered since sort of running the magazine, that so many talented writers and the different way in which they look at their craft. And I've often described Ben to friends, and we were talking about it in the car, as sort of his approach, almost the start of it, is John Cooper Clarke like, in how it hits you between the chops straight off. And that was something he'd sort of described when we were chatting in the car about it as well. And I just love where he comes from. It's offbeat, it's funny, and I'm really proud to, as I said, have published his first piece and continue to do that. And it's been great to have you on this, let's use the J word today, the journey from pretty early on. It's been really cool, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't tend to have any sort of life plan. I just kind of bumble along, and eventually, a nice opportunity might arise. But weirdly, my background's in screenwriting. I studied scriptwriting for film and television at Bournemouth University. Spent too many years I can't then I'd sort of care to remember, trying to get various screenplays off the ground. I did okay. I always had an agent. It's like snakes and ladders. You just get up to the top of the ladder and you think you're going to make that leap, and then suddenly a project will fall through and you're right back down. Again, my heart was always set on writing, screenplays for feature films. That was really what I wanted. But of course, most of the paying gigs in the UK are, writing for the soaps, EastEnders and Hollyoaks and things like that, which, I've got nothing against. I mean, people who write for those shows are fantastically talented, but it just wasn't my kind of bag. And equally, I had opportunity to do it, and I just couldn't do it. It just wasn't my thing. So I think what was so refreshing about Eat, Sleep, Fish and Fly Culture, I wasn't naive about about screenwriting, but I did expect eventually, because I wrote some good stuff, had some, good feedback from it, that someone would just love something and go, okay, Ben, here's some money to go away, rewrite the script, and then we'll take it around some producers and it might get made. But that never happened. But it was so refreshing, working with you, Pete, because it had never occurred, I've always written, but it never occurred to me to write anything about fishing. I kept my own sort of private journal, probably for about the last 16 years. But it wasn't until I was fishing at a private lake up near Malmesbury, and I just had this run of over the course of about 2 months where I just dropped 9 fish in a row. Every single fish I caught came off through some, either bad fishing or bad luck. And it was like, I felt like Jonah. So I stumbled across Eat, Sleep, Fish, so I knew there was a sort of online e-zine, and I just wrote this article. It was the Uncatchables, wasn't it? It was kind of riffing us comparing, not being able to catch fish to the chances of Arsenal's invincible run, of going unbeaten for that length of time. And I really looked at it and just sent it to you, and you just published it online. It was so simple, and that's kind of what I expected it to be, back in my screenwriting days. And then from getting to know you for Eat, Sleep and Fish, it was the same with Fly Culture. Again, the idea just popped in my head of the zombie apocalypse thing. Send that to you, and you're like, yeah, I'll publish it. Got Perry to do some fantastic artwork for it, and from there, it's whereas with screenwriting, crossing between the TV world and the film world, never really felt like I belonged and had a kinship, but I've just felt that so much through my experience with Pete and writing for Fly Culture, meeting other contributors, getting to know John, top designer. And it's just been great, and just really gone from, strength to strength, writing for some, other lesser magazines, obviously, whose names I won't mention. I'm just in the process of, putting my first book together. So it's a really exciting time, and so you used the journey word, didn't you?
Yeah. Sadly, yes.
Yeah. So I really feel like I'm on a journey now. Yeah, it feels good.
Cool. And we're sitting in the back of my car looking out, and we're both horror film fans, and there's a fence here that looks, if you've ever seen the first Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, sorry, there's a shot at the beginning in a graveyard, and the fence reminds me of that. So I reckon if you did go back into your old role, this could be the ideal location. Perhaps there may be a room to make the fishing through the zombie apocalypse and actually make it where the piece came from. But what do you reckon? Do you think we should go and, I'm getting excited, your descriptions, everything else has really excited me. Do you think we should go and see if we can find a fish or two?
Yeah, definitely, dude. Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. So I stepped over just to look into the water, and Ben's exactly right about the clarity. It's absolutely crystal clear. And while he was setting up, I've just had a walk along, and I thought, I'll just have a look, see if I can see a fish. And I saw a shape. It's one of those typical moments where you say it, but I thought was a rock. And I walked up to it and suddenly realised it was a fish, flipped my flies at it. I think it was a brown trout, must have been 6 or 8 pound. Just had a look at the flies, decided it didn't like them, and just melted away. But the water, I cannot describe how clear it is. And, what Ben described as bone fishing is exactly right. The fish was probably only about 4 feet out from the bank, sitting there, just having a nice time, until I upset it a little bit, and off it went. But if this is anything to go by, it's absolutely extraordinary.
Just wondering if he starts heading towards one rod.
Jesus. So Ben's been spotting some fish. He's got his eye in perfectly. It's sort of the wind's blowing towards the bank. And like I said, the water's so crystal clear. He spotted me a couple of fish that I couldn't see so well. But I said to him, why don't you ever go? I've got sort of a little nymph from my river box on, and Ben has a snake fly on. But I sort of got out the way because I couldn't see the fish he was pointing me to, saw something down, like he'd been saying, 3-4 feet out, flipped my flies, and straight away the fish took. And beautiful rainbow. They absolutely lit up. What would you give me for that fish, Ben?
I'd give you, I think, solid 6. That was actually one of the smaller ones. It looks like it's similar size to when it was stocked, maybe about sort of 2 or 3 pounds. But I think the real beasts, they get on the crayfish, because I think there's no real sort of coarse fish in here for them to feed on. It was interesting, the big brownies chasing the fingerling brownies that are stocked each year. You know, as soon as they go in, you'd see these huge brownies, you know, herding them in the corners and trying to hit them. But it's really the fish that really pound on the weight are hard on the crayfish on the bottom. So it'd be good if we can sort of find some of those to target as well.
Wow, it's just amazing. Now, I'm just looking to where I'm talking to you. Do you see about 2 feet out from the bank? Is that a fish?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be some of the... I mean, the brownies do tend to hug the bank. It's sort the lake has sort of done a 180 in the last couple of years. Maybe about 3 years ago, there's a tremendous head of all grown on brownies, you know, stocked probably, you know, as fingerlings, maybe under a pound, you know, sort of 8 ounces, something like that, have just grown into huge sizes, double figures. I mean, you'd see them, the big boys would sort of cruise, you know, maybe couple of feet down, you know, looking like fucking U-boats. They're just incredible. And also patrolling, you know, very close into the bank, couple of feet out on the bottom, and just, you know, being able to stalk them is just fantastic. I think first 18 months here, I must have had about sort of 30, 40 brownies, you know, over sort of 5 pounds. Lost some really, you know, really decent fish as well. But probably just pre-pandemic, you know, you could tell that something was rotten in Denmark. It was in the summer. There was just a huge shoal of brownies all shoaled up. I call it the trickle flow. There's a sort of natural spring that's broken through the sort of concrete side of the lake, and they're shoaled up there going round and round. So at first I thought it was, you know, they're chasing the oxygenated water, but they were very dark fish. And then we sort of realised, you know, some of them were obviously blind, had lost their eyesight, so there was obviously something wrong there. We got a fish biologist in, he couldn't find anything, but it was one to monitor. And I think sadly that population of brownies seems to have died off. I've also got suspicions we got hit quite hard by poachers during the lockdown as well. You know, they were chucking met spinners, you know, bread, whatever. And because the brownies are so visible, part of me thinks that perhaps they were kind of easier to target. So I think we've lost that generation of brownies. There's still the odd one around, but the rainbows have just moved into where the brownies used to be. So now it's the rainbows that are patrolling very close into the bank. The big boys are a bit further out, maybe 2 feet down, and they're obviously hitting the crayfish because they're, you know, they're maybe stocked to maximum size, maybe 2 or 3 pound. Someone the other week had an 11 pounder out of here. An average size, you know, must be about 6 pounds. Absolutely box fresh, mint, perfect rainbows. There's normally a lot of water moving through here because, you know, there's a lot of springs around here, and yeah, just absolutely, you know, the water's freezing cold, but it just brings out the best in the fish. So I'm hoping we'll just carry on. We'll do a circuit of the lake. There's some hot spots we can try, which usually hold fish, where a fish might come blind to it. But yeah, we'll just keep our eyes out. Anything we see sort of moving close in, chuck a fly at it, you know, see what happens.
Well, I think you should go for that one, because to give you an idea of the clarity, I reckon that was 50 plus feet away, and it's now about 30 feet away. And it's the best description I can give for this fish is ambling. And it's just really, really slowly. I'm not going to move because it's coming towards me. What Ben's done is, it's gone out now. So I don't know if you've seen him. It's a good sized fish, must be 7 or 8 pound. And it's just as Ben has moved to get his fly, has just gone out from probably being a foot and a half away from the bank to 3 or 4 feet out. He's got it. It looks now as though it's coming back in tight to the bank again, and Ben's thrown his snake out towards it, but the fish has turned away and is swimming away. It's circled away, which gives us a bit of an advantage now because it can't see us so clearly. So Ben's sort of trying to get into position to see if he can have a go. But it's just mind-blowing how clear this water is, the size of the fish, the quality. You know, every fish, I've seen 3 or 4 fish now, and they're all really full-finned,
great condition. We've got the fishery to ourselves as well, which is extraordinary. Now I'm watching him. He's thrown his fly right in front of that fish. Just kicked a little bit when he started retrieving, but it looks as though it's ambling away again now. But we'll see. So I probably only made about my 5th cast, and Ben had spotted a fish just round. We've not walked very far at all, but we've come round one of the edges of the lake, and he spotted a couple of fish moving through. Advised where I should stand, threw my flies out, and brown trout took of about 3.5 pounds. Incredibly strong. Straight on it though. He'd spotted some. I'm seeing the fish really well when they're in close over the lighter bottom. But when there's the ripple on the water and a little bit further out, I can see a little bit. I'm getting accustomed to it now. But I've been amazed by Ben's skill at spotting those fish in the difficult to see spaces. We saw some other fish that Ben felt probably weren't really on the feed. We've just seen a fish rise actually just in front of us, which is exciting. But that was pretty cool, mate. Great guiding.
Oh, Guy, yeah, I mean, I put it all down to the Oakleys. It's not me. Quality shades, kids. Can't beat them. But yeah, that was Mystery Gentleman's Fishing Syndicate Lake X 101. That was perfect. You saw the brownie close in, as opposed to the other fish, which have sort of been, cruising around, mooching about. I find, they weren't really feeding, but that one had his nose on the bottom. So he's obviously found something there he liked to nosh. So he was, what I call an active fish. You put the cast out, bang on the money, and it hit the fly. But the interesting thing, because it's so visual here, but a lot of reservoir fishing, you're fishing blind. And I don't know how you felt, Pete, but a lot of times I don't even feel the take. But you saw the fish, going in the fly, and then, open its mouth and turn. So you struck when you sort of reacted to what it was doing. But, very often you don't feel the take here. Unless it's, a sort of one of the big brownies, and they absolutely hammer the fly. That's real kind of heart-pounding stuff. But no, another stonking fish, and it was a nice kind of silvery brownie. I think I'd call it, and it's obviously one of the fingerlings that was maybe stocked, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and that was lovely 3.5 pound, absolutely mint condition, beautiful fresh fish. Well done.
It's interesting what you say about the take, and like Ben was saying, it's visual, and that's why it's so thrilling. And I'd sort of seen, thankfully the first cast was in the right spot, and I'd seen it sort of be alerted to the fly sort of landing on the water, and I almost just sort of induced it a little bit, just sort of lifted my rod a little bit, and I could see the fish put on speed, say, yeah, that might be getting away from me. Saw it make that dart and just lifted straight into it. So really, really lucky, but really, again, I'm going to probably keep saying this, so apologies, but the ability to be able to see the fish. It's interesting, Ben, that the ripples eased a bit, and I'm finding I can see out a little bit further. I know in the corner there you were spotting some fish that I couldn't quite see, but I can see where we're standing now, slightly less ripples, a little bit easier for me, certainly as a newcomer here, to see into the water.
Yeah, dude, easier for me. I think where we were at the car park end, normally the wind would be coming off the car park shore from the southwest down the valley, but today the wind is coming off the dam end, so the wind was blowing onto the bank we were fishing. There was a bit more chop on the water, and even for me it was much more difficult to see. But now we're waking up where we're sort of side on to the wind now, and look, there's another one just kind of cruising straight in front of us, maybe about sort of 20 feet up. Yeah, much easier to spot these now. So as we work our way around, I hope we're going to see some more cruising fish, some more active fish, and get a bit of action.
Cool. Let's see. Do you want to have a go at that one that you've seen out there?
I think I'll leave it now, but it's funny. These ones tend to be higher in the water. I think with the grizzle snake, there's no coarse fish. There's no head of coarse fish in here. There's no fry. But I think, so what I try to do, I'll see a cruising fish, maybe get about 20 feet in front of it, let my fly line sink on the bottom, and then as they come, just give it a twitch along the bottom. And I think it must register as, sort of crayfish-ish. And then that's when they go for it. But I think these sort of cruising fish, maybe about 2 feet down, very rare that I'd get them to take a grizzle snake. But yeah, as I said, we'll keep going. We'll look for active fish. And if I see someone cruising it, close in, or I can get in front of it, I'll happily have a go at it with the grizzle snake.
Awesome. Let's go. One of the things I love about fishing people's home water with them is that how well they know a place. And Ben said to me, right, this is usually, I call it the dog leg, it's usually a good spot for me to make a few blind casts. And he's thrown his snake out there. I've wandered along the bank a little bit further and it's just come off. And he had a nice rainbow on there on his snake. But I don't think that matters. What is the wonderful thing, like I was saying, is that people who know their water, they know the method, they know the techniques and where to fish, and it sort of called the play, and it worked out. Looking again I've got like a little nymph for my river box on, a little black bead head. He says they don't like the bright beads, and was having a look, and then lo and behold, the rod was arched over and playing fish. Sadly, this one came off. We're putting them all back. We're fishing barbless flies. We're putting them back, but that's a moral victory, and deeply impressed. I'm getting the sense, as Ben was saying, really about the fish, and you flip at them, and if there's one that's sort of, again, that term I used, ambling, and they seem to be, from what I've seen on lakes and things, fish are moving purposely through round a lake. Here they seem perfectly happy, perfectly at ease, and are just wandering round. And it's just finding that one that you flip your fly in front of, and you've got a relatively good chance if he's in the mood. If he's not, they're just going to skulk away and they're gone. But that was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was nice. I mean, we're sort of, showing the two ways you can fish here. So I'm at a spot that it seems to be a good fishing holding area. It gives off to deeper water. So yeah, cast out, let my fly get down good and deep, just twitch it back, and yeah, got absolutely hammered. It might be another one of those silver brownies. I just kind of saw a bit of a flash, decent sized fish, maybe about sort of 4 pounds, something like that. But yeah, this tactic also works well as well.
Fantastic, great work, my friend. So the stalking continues. A little bit further out, I'd seen a fish swim through a rainbow, and I threw out a cast. It is pure excitement. It is, again, like being bonefish, and I thought it was a bit short. But with the water being so crystal clear, the fish saw that nymph, and it's only a size 16 river nymph. It's like got some CDC on it, and there's a hackle and a black bead. And the fly landing on the water was enough to bring the fish in. It was a little bit circumspect, but I did the induce, just lifted to bring the fly up in the water, and the thing just chased it down and hit it straight away, which was really cool. Another rainbow, about, what would you give me for that, Ben? £3 pound?
I'd say 3.5, but it was absolutely mint condition. Beautiful colours down its flanks, and you can just see there's a bit of a sort of overspill. There's lots of water running over the top of it, so it just means there's a good flow of cold water, running through the reservoir. Some places the cold seems to put the fish off the feet, put them down, but here they just seem to thrive on it. I guess it's the sort of North American background of the rainbow, isn't it? They really seem to thrive on it. But no, stonking fish, dude. Good fishing.
It's just, I know I'm going to keep saying it, but it is just so exciting fishing in a spot like this. And for me, the visual aspect of it is what I love. It's the equivalent, I guess, the still water equivalent of, as we've said a number of times, bone fishing, or perhaps even fishing a chalk stream. Now Ben's just tapped me on the shoulder. He's seen a fish come through. Oh, I can see it now. I'm getting a better sense of the fish now. I'm seeing them a bit better. He's sort of quickly tapped me on the shoulder, and he's made a cast out. The fish is probably 6 or 7 feet off, 8 feet off the fly, and what he's done is exactly as he said. He's let that fly drop down, and it's on it. It's pretty close now. It's having a look and just circling round it, but decided it didn't want it. It looked like it, yeah. And it's the classic case. Ben's just sort of giving me the sign, really. No, he's not having that. And it was that he had a look at it, but that wasn't a good enough look for him, or he wasn't in the mood for it, and just as melted away into the deep water again. What's really resonating with me is what Ben said, that they're either going to have it or they're not. They're in the mood or they're just mooching around. And you may think, well, this is spectacular fishing, we're catching a fish cast. But we're at the dam wall now, and I've sort of been walking along here, and I've had about 3 shots at fish that, again, that term I've been using, mooching, and the fish have been doing that. And I flipped my flies. I think they've been pretty okay casts, and the fish have just melted away again. So it does seem, what, again, listening to the expert, the person who fishes here all the time, about they're going to eat it or they're not, they're a player or they're not. And that really does seem to be the case right now. And Ben's just a little bit back further from me. He's sort of still fishing a little bit deeper with his snake fly. My rod, I've got a 9'6" weight rod, and it seems to be coping absolutely fine. I've got a small, as I said, it's my river box. I don't have many stillwater flies, and Ben said they like small flies, so thankfully I have my river jacket in the back of the car, so I could easily choose the fly, which made life a little bit easier for me on that front. And rod's coping absolutely fine. Just watching Ben put out a longer, looks a more speculative cast, although, like I've said, he's pretty used to being able to spot those fish from a little bit further away. But I'm sort of standing in the corner looking to see if I can see any signs of fish, but I think I've had some good goes at them. They just didn't want to play with me, but I'll keep looking around and keep spotting these fish. And like I say, it's pretty addictive trying to find a fish, spot a fish and make a cast to it. Ben's still working the dam wall at the moment. I've walked down probably only about 40 feet or so from the dam wall, and the interesting thing here is that the ripple's coming right in tight on the bank, and already from a stalking point of view, it's a little bit trickier, a little bit further out to see the fish at the moment. And I've noticed a couple of casts I made at what I thought might be fish, because the fish, like I've said, haven't really been sort of zooming around the lake in any fast speed. They've been slowly moving around it, and I've noticed I made a couple of casts that I thought were fish that weren't, but I think it's probably always worth doing just in case. While I speak, a couple of buzzers round as well. I've got half a mind, again, with it being so clear, that if we do another lap or so of the lake, I'm trying to guess the size, it's probably 6 acres, something like that. Something that sort of size. If we do another lap, I might put a couple of dries on and twitch them a little bit and see if I can bring somebody up. But we'll see. But a little bit more trickier to spot the fish from here. I've not seen so many. I haven't seen Ben's rod go yet either. So maybe it's just a little bit quieter just at the moment. But we'll keep trying. I thought it was getting a little bit quieter, and was just waiting for Ben. I was walking back to him and then just see his rod go over. It looks like he's got a nice fish. Looks a nice one, bud. Yeah, nice. Nice rainbow. Yeah, beauty. Absolute beauty. The fun part of, there's always and rightly so there should be, a price to pay for catching a fish, and it's just getting down this. We're about probably 3.5 feet off the water surface, and then you sort of have to slide down a little bit. And I've had a few close shaves, but Ben's just got that fish in now, beautifully, nicely done. Strong fish. 4, 5. Yeah, maybe 4 pound, that one, a rainbow. It was, I think I'd said on the previous section that Ben had slowly been working around the dam wall, and I knew he'd mentioned that it was a favourite spot for him. But really, really nice fish. I'm going to grab a picture of him with it as well. So he's just going to weigh it now. What do you reckon? Just over 3 and a bit, actually. It wasn't as big as it. They always do look big at first, and they're deep fish as well, but really, really good condition. But nicely done, bud. We grabbed a quick sausage roll and a cookie, and I thought I'd try some dry flies. And the wind's eased a little bit, and we saw a fish rise, so lunch was pretty quick, only that we'd seen a fish rise. So I tied a couple of dries on. I've got my ever faithful pearl butt merger and one of Warren's patterns as well. I think it's sort of a crippled olive sort of pattern, but I like the way it sort of sits in the water. And I cast out, Ben spotted a fish and I cast out, and it came up and had a look and then decided, no, I'm going off. So I'm sort of employing river tactics here, really. They're not sort of many rises, but there's an edge of a very gentle ripple, which to me has always been a good place to look for rising rainbow trout. And I'm waiting for a rise, really. And the moment I see one of those, then I'll fire a shot out. I did see one, and I thought I covered it really well, but the fish didn't take. But yeah, I'm just waiting to see. I sort of feeling that you could probably spec these dries as well, with the water being so clear. If the fish were in the mood, and I know early on Ben said that they'll travel quite a way for a fly because the water's so clear. So I'm almost tempted to throw the dries out, leave them for a bit, give them a little twitch, and then see what happens. But part of me as well thinks, wouldn't it be cool to see a fish rise, cover it, and see if it'll eat the fly? So I'm looking at it two ways at the moment. It's a win-win, certainly, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm just sort of where we caught the first fish this morning. So it looks the right place for me. As I said, there's a gentle little ripple here and the edge of it here. I'd seen a few fish rise when we were eating lunch, so let's see what happens. I made a few casts at fish that were going by, but they just weren't interested in the dry. By the time I tied on a couple of nymphs, the fish that moved through had gone. But I look upstream around the lake a little bit further. That's Freudian slip there, and Ben's switched. What have you gone to? A midge tip. Yeah. So Ben's got a midge tip on now. He'd changed things up, and a couple of nymphs, and lo and behold, he's into a fish. It's given him a bit of a run around as well, hasn't it?
Didn't like my face, dude.
I can understand that. Yeah, it's really running, actually. Strong run. What flies have you got on?
I've got the black beadhead PTNs. Not as small as yours. I couldn't go down to a 16, but I've just got a pair of 14s on. But again, it was a cruising fish. I probably cast about 5 fish, spooked a few, or some have a look, just aren't interested. And this one, saw it turn, mouth open, saw a struck, didn't feel the take, and bang.
Handsome fish, this one. Now, Ben's going to slide down to net that. It's a nice fish, strong fish. It's given him 3 or 4 really good runs. Did you get into your backing, did you say? Yeah, got into the first run, took him into the backing. It's a beautiful condition fish. It's a big, big fish as well. Nice size fish. Deep. Yeah, really nice fish. Nice rainbow. Full finned. Seeing him in this, that's a really good fish, mate. Oh, nearly. Saw one look at the net and was gone. That's a stunning fish. It's fish of the day by miles, that, mate. I reckon it's his this time. He's got the head up. Just about fits in the net. That's a beauty, mate. Yeah, that's a big old dog, that one. Yeah. He's Ben was saying it's the ones we've been seeing. The one I'd seen first off, I think, was this sort of size, and it's an absolute beauty. We're going to talk you through, and then I'm going to go down and take a couple of photos because it's absolutely stunning fish. But you're going to weigh it, bud. What's your guess? He's giving it 6, but he's got a weigh net, so we're going to find out. These things always keep us honest as well. What do you got? Smidge over 6. Good call. Nicely done, mate. Absolutely stunning fish. I'm going to turn this off now and get a photo. Ben's just spotted a fish about 20 feet out from the bank. We've done the top end again, and the water's really flat there, and we've seen fish, and they've been not circumspect, but you think, oh, this is not a done deal. Wouldn't be arrogant enough to think that, but when you see the fish come round behind it, you think I'm at least in the game, and then they pull away, and it's really fun because being able to see them as well, you sometimes think, oh well, like I say, that's a done deal, but it hasn't been. And it makes you think and scratch your head a little bit more about it. And, we were just chatting about it off mic about what may happen. But what I wanted to ask, Ben, when you come to places like this, and obviously this was an inspiration for your zombie piece, do you find it's a place you can come, clear the head, and does it help creatively as well as, I guess, almost spiritually and from a relaxing point of view? Do you find that?
I don't know. I mean, I think, I've been lucky in my life. I've had a kind of fairly stress-free existence. Obviously, the pandemic was difficult because it was something that, directly affected the organisation I was, working for, close colleagues, friends. I saw the effect it was having on them. So I think at that time, you underestimate the wonder of being able, having a key to a place with a gate. You can unlock it, walk in, lock that gate behind you, and just everything melts away. So I think for that period, it was great to be here. I think creatively, it's funny because non-fishing people always ask you, what do you think about when you're fishing? And you're thinking about fishing. I'm not thinking about, stories or narratives or characters. I'm thinking about fishing. But I just find, particularly if I'm fishing somewhere I've never fished before, if I'm up in the mountains up in the Cambrian Mountains, up in a Ascent, on Jura, I'm just looking, you're just soaking stuff up. And I think it's normally, sometimes I'm doing something and I think, this would either make a good article, or I kind of twig the approach, to make that article unique.
Do you think it sort of allows you to reset, and it may be on the journey home or a day afterwards that you suddenly think, actually, there's something in there? Is that's something you may think about?
Well, there's two schools of thought, because with writing, the first school of thought is just get your bum in the seat every day for 2 hours a day, and even if nothing's coming, sit there for 2 hours and eventually something will come. So, that's something I firmly believe in, and, working from home, during the pandemic is great because, I'll sort of get up early, get a couple of hours in writing, and then, I'm able to sort of start my day job. So that was great. But I'm also a believer in, oh God, more cliches, but it's like wine. Sometimes you might just get a germ of the idea, but you leave it and it gets better of age. So I might have an idea, it's not quite ready for an article, but I just sort of leave it, mull it around. And, sometimes, because for me, I think I'm a writer who fishes rather than a fisherman who writes. Some of the guys you've had on the podcast, these are great, sort of fishermen. I couldn't imagine writing an article that advised people, how to fish or what to do kind of tactically. So I've kind of got my own sort of niche when it comes to writing. And for me, it's just finding that kind of, I don't know, just that spark. And I think, you talked about, the opening, punching someone in the mouth. Once I've got that opening, once I've got that kind of rat-a-tat-tat voice, I think the voice, it's kind of like, you've had too little sleep, you've had too much caffeine, you're a bit wired, you're a bit kind of out there. And I think that's the kind of voice that always gets me started. And that's the one I'm looking for. And once I've got that, then I know I've got the start of the article. But for me, because my background is in screenwriting, it's rewrite, draft after draft. So, any article I submit to you, Pete, it's probably gone through, 9-10 drafts. Sometimes it's a complete rewrite, but other times, it might only be just shifting a couple of paragraphs around or cutting something out. And it's just, I'm a great believer in that process. And, really paring stuff down. I might do a sort of long draft, maybe about 3,000 words, but then I'll cut it down. Oh, hang on, fish is just right. I'll cut it down, to maybe sort of 2.5, 3, even if you're sort of going through it and just cutting every third word, that can really help. And it just sort of tightens the whole whole process up.
We've thrown him a little bit. I don't know if you just heard that. While Ben was sharing some of his skills and expertise of fish rows, so we're just covering that at the moment. Flatter water, isn't it? There was no it was ripple all the way down this bank earlier. Yeah, it feels as though they've not been quite as active as this morning. Would you say that's fair, or it's just, how do you feel?
I think so, Pete. I think normally the sort of golden period now is probably from about 12 till 2. So we've had a few fish rising, but it's kind of been like that all day, hasn't it? We've cast a lot of fish. They'll either sort of see the line or see something I don't like and go away. They'll have a look and not really be interested. And then you remember those old Tex Avery cartoons where the wolf would see the sexy little Red Riding Hood and its eyes goes on stalks. Yeah. You'll suddenly get one fish and it'll do a complete double take. Eyes will go on stalks and bang, absolutely nail your fly. Oh yeah, got it.
Just seen one as well, just swimming along the bank. And again, being able to see it. So Ben's cast probably 10 feet in front of the fish, ultra slow. We've seen the fish sort of almost go. Is he going to have a look? He's having a look. Mooching is the word. He's still on it. And he's followed it in and just janked away at the last second. And that's how it's felt this afternoon. Of course, if you're fishing a water where you can't see the fish so well, this is probably going on all the time. But getting the chance to see it makes you think about, right, and I was saying to Ben, do I need to make my tippet diameter a little bit thinner? And of course, the issue with that is the strength and the size of the fish in here. They're not small fish, they're strong fish. And, as I said earlier, that Ben had a fish pull the backing out, the 7+ pound fish that he caught earlier, took the backing out. And there are things you got to kind of think about, particularly if you're putting them back as well. So it's been, again, that was wonderful to see that the instinct was in the fish, but the actual finish, and as Ben just described, fish with its eyes on its stalk, they certainly weren't that. It was kind of, I'll see what it is. And I wonder if that is as well the difference between rainbows, and that was a rainbow trout, and brown trout. Brown's probably more likely to say, well, we're not playing now. Whereas rainbows, it's in them to say, well, what is that? Let's give this a look. That's what it almost felt like then, didn't it?
Yeah, I think you can tell the difference between. A lot of times you tell the differences in the take. So I think, I just said the brownie population has sadly been thinned out, but a brownie, they're more predatory. So they will hit your fly, they will hit your fly. There's no doubt, that they want to eat what's on the end of your line. Whereas, rainbows, they're inquisitive. The old cliches, they don't have arms. So they've only got their mouth to kind of, if they're inquisitive about something. And sometimes it's just a sort of bare tightening of your line. You always get that lovely kind of WTF moment with rainbows where it's kind of like, they can't quite work out what happened, and they suddenly realise they hooked, and then bang, head for the hills. So that's always a sort of exciting moment.
And those that sort of flatter water I was talking about, it may be the old classic that a bit more ripple on the water helps, and that ripple's come down now. And as I said, we could see probably 25 feet out. Now it's probably only 10, 12 feet. I don't know if that's going to help and give us some camouflage, and the fish feel happier about that. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm tempted to go back up to that downward. Part of me wants to understand what's happening there. So I might just go and have a look at that. So we're just wrapping up now, and we sort of split up and split the lake in half, really. Ben caught a fish and I caught a fish. Similar sort of case, this one was in a group of 3 and broke off again. I used that bonefish analogy which Ben started the day with, and broke off and ate the fly, and that was fantastic. And then I walked down the bank and I saw more fish, threw at those, and again, very circumspect. And it reminded me of what I said earlier about, all these things when we're fishing water, when we can't see into it so well. I wonder how often these things are going on that we don't know, but I've learned something from it. Very, very slow retrieves. And then at the end, I put on the nearest thing I had to a lure. Please accept my apologies, but I tried a squirmy worm just to see what it would be like and do the exact opposite to what I've been doing, really slow with little nymphs and stuff like that, moving the fly quick. Had about a 3.5, 4 mil tungsten bead on it, so it was getting it down. I was casting it out, letting it sink right down, and then just pulling it in relatively quick. And I had about 3 or 4 follows from fish, but they just didn't want to commit to it. They looked like they were rainbows. They were coming in hot, but just didn't commit to it. So that was kind of fun end to the day. But Ben, I just wanted to thank you for such a cool day, such an amazing water. It's been a real education as somebody who doesn't fish still waters that often. I say education. Most importantly, it's been enjoyment. I've absolutely loved seeing this. You probably got tired of me shrieking with delight with seeing all these things and seeing the fish. And that's one of the things I really love about fishing, particularly be it a rise or being able to spot a fish that I really love. And this gave a fantastic opportunity. I managed to stay dry when I landed a fish on my own when you were at the other side. So that was good. I almost did a Thunderbird 4 entry into the lake, but managed to hang on at the last second. So that was great. And the whole experience has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for having me along today.
No, real pleasure, Pete. And I think what you said is interesting. I mean, how many fish have we seen and casted at? 30, 40 fish, some real, beasts as well. Bless you.
Thank you.
It's just been great. Yeah, really, really glad that I could, you do get a bit, I fished here 3 years. I can fish here whenever I want. There's no closed season. And it's kind of nice to bring someone new to it because you do familiarity breeds contempt, and I do get a bit blasé about it. But blimey, seeing your reaction to it, dude, it makes me realise what a really kind of special place it is, and how unique it is in terms of how you can fish it as well.
I think for me, it's the water, as I keep saying, the clarity, the quality of the fish as well has been outstanding. I doubt that you'd get cormorants here because the fish would eat them. They're big enough to eat them. So I doubt that would ever be an issue. But it's just so peaceful. It's so pretty hidden away in the valley. I'm going to ask Ben for some contact details, but please don't message him and ask him where to fish. We've all got places like this, and although we've shared a little about it, we've not shared too much about it, and I'm sure you can appreciate and understand why we've done that as well. But it is a really special place. I feel really lucky to have been along. I'm excited that Ben, we're about, when I'm recording this one, we're about to send the spring edition of Fly Culture off to the printer. Ben has a wonderful piece in there, again, out there on left field, and I absolutely love it. I'm sure you will do too. Ben, yeah, thanks, mate.
All right, dude, and yeah, just like to wish James B. Sickin happy birthday in a couple of days' time, 86 years old, top guy.
Nice. If people want to find you, I know you post some fun stuff on Twitter and on Instagram. If people want to find you, how do they find you?
I've got a blog which is called Fish, Hooks and Fur Coats, which I try to update as much as I can. I'm on Insta, that's FH and FC. I'm on Facebook. I'm actually off Twitter. It's just too much of a misery fest. It's like 5-6 pieces of absolute misery, and then they show you a kitten pitch, a kitten video or something like that. So I'm off Twitter at the moment. But yeah, look me up. Instagram, Facebook, blog. Yeah.
Nice. Everyone, this has been the Fly Culture podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this one. As ever, if you are and you want to receive the podcast every week, please consider subscribing. You've probably heard me say it helps, but I don't understand why. I found out the reason, and that is that if you're trying to sell advertising, you've got a load of subscribers. That's great. I'm not interested in that. I just want to give you content and take you fishing or take you to the next best place from fishing. But if you'd like to still receive the Fly Culture podcast, subscribe away, and I hope you look forward to the next one too. Thanks for listening.
The Fly Culture podcast is brought to you in association with Fly Culture, a quarterly print magazine. For more information, please visit flyculturemag.com. You can also find Fly Culture on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter.